Hello my friends, Terry here, and today's video is going to be different. Instead of me actually fixing something, I actually have some news to share with you all. Alright everyone, so today is Monday, and on Saturday on my way to work, something pretty awful happened with my Z3. For those of you who have owned a Z3 for a while, you've done your research, and you already know a lot of the things that could possibly go wrong with your Z3 that are just common issues, design flaws, and the issue that happened with mine is one that I was aware of as, a fatal flaw for the Z3, and I was putting it off because I had other things I wanted to focus on first, and I was hopeful that since I don't use my car that often, that I would be okay to not address this and do preventative measures. Well, it didn't work out for me. It got me. So for those of you who may be new to owning a Z3, or maybe you haven't done much research, let me tell you what I'm talking about. All right, so the Z3 has some fatal flaws that can grenade your car, for lack of a better term. So, as I go into this, those of you who, are well versed in the Z3, you're going to kind of know where I'm going with this. So, being a Z3 owner, you already are aware of all the cheap plastic components that are in the car that was, common to put in vehicles from the 90s, or even up to today. If you look at the most expensive cars made today, Lamborghini and all them, they use cheap plastic parts as well. So it's just one of those things that hasn't gone away, unfortunately. But, now that our cars are 20 plus years old, plastic parts, they've become brittle and they become, you know, a problem. All right. They become a problem. So what happened to me is when I was driving to work on Saturday, as I was about maybe 100 feet or so from the parking lot of my job, I started to hear something like rattling and like hitting the underside of the Z3. And the best way to explain what it sounded like is it would be like driving on a gravel road and hearing all the stones kicking up, only I was on a paved road with no loose stones. So I was like, that's not right. So I pull in to my parking lot at work, park my car. Immediately, my car starts smoking. And I'm like, oh no. Turn the car off, open the hood, and I immediately know what happened. If you own a Z3, this is something that's going to happen to your car. It is inevitable. It will happen to your car if you haven't already made preventative measures to prevent this from happening. And what happened was the fan blades on my clutch fan broke. And what does that mean? That means they become basically loose shrapnel, plastic shrapnel, that are just bopping around in your engine bay, causing all kinds of havoc. So this means, in my case, the two fan blades that snapped off, they destroyed the cowl, potentially punctured my radiator. I don't know if they actually punctured my radiator. It's possible they just sliced up my hoses. I won't know until I dig deeper to find out. But the reason why I'm going to go ahead and say that they punctured my radiator is because I looked under my car while I was, just getting to work, and all of my coolant was just pouring out. A beautiful river of coolant. All right. So worst case scenario, my radiator also got punctured. Best case scenario, it just the hoses got messed up, and that's the best case. But more than likely though, because of the proximity of the clutch fan to the radiator probably got punctured. All right, so we're just gonna say that's a safe bet. So let me show you, as well as, you see this lovely thing right here, this lovely shoelace size piece of rubber. is a beautifully shaved off piece of my serpentine belt. So it also, you know, destroyed my serpentine belt. That's going to have to get replaced. That's not a big deal because it means serpentine belts. This is a general maintenance item anyway. So this isn't the big deal. It's, you know, the fan cowl is really expensive. That's like a $250 part by itself just for that plastic piece. And then, you know, there's the replacement fan if I choose to get a replacement fan. And if I have to get a radiator, those can range from $140 all the way up to $500, depending on the manufacturer you want to go with and the quality. So that can get pretty steep pretty quick. And then there's no way of me really knowing until I pull the fan and the radiator out to see if anything else also has gotten damaged. But right here is a chunk of one of my fan blades. The other one is probably the one that I heard bopping around underneath the undercarriage of the Z3 because I haven't been able to locate that piece. So that's gone. All right, so as you can see, here's the cowl. It's the whole top part got shaved off. It's all cracked and it's gotten pulled away from the radiator. It's kind of dark, but you know, so here's the fan blades. These two here are now gone. They're gone. So yeah, and as you can see, it's really tight in here. So if there's any other damage that's happened in this area, I'm not going to be able to see it until I start taking this stuff apart. All right, and in order for me to remove the radiator, I have to take the front bumper off. I have to take the auxiliary fan out so I can get to the bolts on the inside to completely remove the radiator. So this was going to be a pretty big job if I need to replace the radiator, which in all honesty, even if my radiator didn't get punctured, it would be very smart of me to replace it anyway. Because if you look, if you don't spend a lot of time in your engine bay, you'll notice that the radiator that BMW installed has a lot of plastic components on the radiator itself. Instead of using a fully aluminum cast radiator, there's a lot. Basically, this plastic runs all the way down both sides of your radiator, and that's no good. All this stuff can fail. It's going to be a project. So I'm not going to be driving the Z3 for a little while. I'm going to have to order parts. Now, this is where I got to warn everybody. If you have not already gotten rid of these items, please, please, please do the preventative stuff. Don't be like me and think that you'll be fine because it's going to grenade. It's going to happen. This cheap, flimsy cowl is going to eventually break. Your fan blade is going to break. And once one of them goes, everything goes. Okay? So get rid of all the plastic bits. Get rid of the fan cowl. There are options to do fan deletes. I'm going to look into that. I don't know if that's something I can do with mine. From all the research I have seen, everyone who has done a fan delete is someone who either has an M model or one of the older Z3s from like 99 and older, basically. So I need to find out if that is a viable option for a 2.5 because I haven't seen anyone talk about doing it. But so that's an option so that I don't have to worry about this at all because I do have the AC. So you can use the auxiliary fan to help keep everything cool. So that is a potential thing. Now, if you have one of the real early model Z3s, those didn't come with an air conditioning system, so you wouldn't have that. Do yourself a favor, and if you're able to do a fan delete or just replace the fan with a better quality fan, do so. Do not wait. Also, the radiator. If you still have the OEM radiator with the plastic sides, get rid of it. All right, it's going to cause you heartache at some point. Your thermostat. If you have a 2.8 or 3.0 Z3, they make an aluminum housing for your thermostat. So that's another piece of plastic that you can also get rid of. Unfortunately, I don't have that option for the 2.5. Like again, that they only made the aluminum, an aftermarket aluminum housing for your thermostat for the 2.8 and the 3.0. So that stinks. But if you're got one of those, take advantage and get that switched out. Now, I can't really show you because I still have my clutch fan installed, but where the serpentine belt goes, that whole pulley system, one of the pulleys that they have there is also plastic. So another preventative for you is to get rid of that plastic pulley and go and buy yourself an aluminum one. All right, so do it. All right. And then the other big grenade that can happen is with your water pump. Now, when the Z3 first came out, the water pump that was installed had a plastic impeller that breaks, and then it just, detonates your engine. A very bad day. You do not want this to happen, especially if you're someone who is going to be doing autocross. You do not want that water pump. All right. Do not get rid of it. All right. So do yourself a favor. You can either get yourself a real high quality like Stewart water pump if you want to go that route. Those are pretty expensive. They do make an upgraded version of the OEM water pump that has a metal impeller. All right, that's going to be a lot more cost effective, and it replaces the issue, which is the previous plastic impeller. So that's the route I would go for me personally, because I do not do autocross. I don't need a real good high quality one to handle the additional stress and performance of the vehicle. So get stuff based on your needs. So yeah, so now that this has happened and I'm going to have to potentially do a complete cooling system replacement, I might as well replace the pulley, pull out the water pump, and do as much additional, while I'm in there, kind of maintenance. So that way, once I get the, radiator and all the hoses and the fan either replaced or deleted, I don't have to worry about the pulley or the water pump also destroying something. I'm going to change, if I do a delete, I'll have to change the auxiliary fan switch to, so that way I'll have to, I believe the one that came with the car is like a 97 degrees Celsius switch. What I would have to do is switch over to an 88 degrees Celsius switch, so that way the auxiliary fan will kick in sooner to help prevent the engine from overheating. So that's an option if I want to go that route. There's the thermostat as well, changing out the thermostat to help keep the engine running at a cooler temperature, and other things you can do to, if you decide to do a fan delete. Like I said, I don't know if I want to go with the fan delete route, honestly. Now, it's argued that it's going to reduce weight. Yes. It's going to also increase your horsepower to not have that drain on your engine. I've seen guys in forums, now I don't know how accurate this is, but there has been claims in the forums that the clutch fan, the electric clutch fan, draws 20 horsepower to run. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's, pretty noticeable, I would say. I feel like it would probably be a lower amount because the people who have done fan deletes, they have mentioned that they know that they're getting more horsepower, but it's not a noticeable difference. Again, this is probably going to be based on how you use the car. Are you a spirited driver on twisty roads in the mountains? Or do you do autocross to where you're going to notice the performance of your vehicle? Or are you more like me where your car is the, kind of more of like a little Sunday driver car where you just drive it occasionally and you're not really going at extreme speeds? You know what I mean? So again, I don't know if it's something that I would fully consider just yet. I'm still on the fence about whether or not I want to do the fan delete. I think for me, I think I might just go and buy a performance electric clutch fan to replace the poor quality one that BMW uses. This way, I can still know that I'm going to get the proper cooling, because what happens if my auxiliary fan goes next? You know, it's going to, my auxiliary fan is the original. It's 20 some years old. You know, I don't know when that could go out. And the last thing I want is to be driving on a hot day here in Georgia and then my car overheats. So I don't know. I'm still on the fence. I can probably do the fan delete first just to get the car back into running order. And then if I don't like the way that it's performing, if I notice that the temperature is running a little too hot, then I may also just, like I said, put a different fan in it. Now, keep in mind, I do have a manual, so there's fewer things I have to replace. If you own an automatic, keep in mind that if you do a fan delete, you're gonna have to come up with you'll have to put in a system. If you don't already have one, you'll have to upgrade the one that's in there to help keep your oil cooler. So that way the oil temperature in your engine doesn't get too hot. And you have a different reservoir for your radiator in an automatic that you would also more than likely need to replace. Because if you upgrade to a better radiator, it's going to have a bigger capacity, so you're going to need a different reservoir. So keep all these things in mind if you have an automatic. There's a few extra things you will have to consider compared to someone like myself that has a manual. So I don't have to worry about the oil as much as an automatic user would. But just make sure, do all your research. All right, do all your research. I will be ordering parts. I'll be making videos showing the disassembly process as we go, and looking to see what other damages I find. Hopefully I don't have additional damage. I'm really hoping it's just a serpentine belt, the fan, the cowl, and maybe just the hoses for the radiator. That's best case scenario. You know, otherwise I might have a punctured radiator. And like I said, it would be a smart decision. Even if my radiator didn't get punctured, it would be a smart decision to just replace it anyway and get a full casted aluminum radiator, just because that is still, if it's not punctured now, it's still a potential calamity that could still happen to me. So they get that done. And like I said, once I tear everything open, I'm going to replace that pulley and I'm going to replace that water pump. I'm already in there, and I do not want that blowing up my engine. So it's going to be gone. I'm fixing it. I'm not putting that off. So that's going to happen. So that gives you guys all a heads up on what my situation is currently and the kind of content that I will be making as we go through and get all these issues corrected. So please take my advice, learn from my mistake, and don't keep putting it off. Just get it done, because if it happens to you, you're going to regret it. You're going to be like, oh, I should have just fixed it. I knew this could happen. I put it off, and now I'm paying for it. Please don't make my mistake, okay? And there's a lot of other things that could get damaged that mine didn't. Like the hood, for example. When this stuff detonates underneath the engine bay, it has the potential that sometimes the hood gets severely dented, and you also might have to replace your entire hood. And these are like $800 on the minimum, all right, to get one that isn't off a scrap car that already has rust and dents and other, defective issues. So yeah, it can get a lot worse very, very quickly depending on your situation. So just don't wait. That's all I can say. Do not wait. Fix it. All right, you guys. Thank you guys for checking out. This was my quick update on what happened with my Z3, and now you know. So we're going to get this fixed. I'd love for you guys to be on this journey with me as I go through and we update my Z3 cooling system, so that way I won't have to worry about it detonating in the future. So hit that subscribe, tell a friend, share the video out, please. Word of mouth is powerful. Check out my Instagram at CoolCatTerry, and I'll see you all on the next one. Bye.